who are you and what do you do?
Rob Hutchins, and I'm the owner slash only person behind Built by Hutch. Do primarily Mazda Miata parts right now, but the term I like to kind of put myself under is automotive everyday carry. So right now I make ignition keys for the Mazda Miata. These guys. Yeah. And if anybody, I guess, wants to follow along, I'm Built by Hutch, Hutch, on Instagram. That's pretty much where I post everything. And my other item I got going that's on there too is little bottle openers shaped like they call it the tombstone. It's the center console of the Miata. Pretty iconic looking center console. So those are my two main items right now. I do a lot of brass work just because keys are inherently, they're usually brass. The heft of that just sort of carries nicely into other everyday carry stuff. And, and it's easy to mill. Can't argue with that.
Speaking of milling brass, what kind of machine setup do you have?
So right now I only have a Shapeoko 3XL, and it's got quite a few upgrades to it. So it's definitely not the stock machine anymore. It's got the Saunders Machine Works fixture plate, and then linear rails on the X, and then a 2.2 kilowatt, 24,000 RPM spindle.
So you've basically made it like the new Shapeoko HDM.
Yeah, I have all the upgrades to do the Y-axis linear rails too. So basically, I just started that before they had it available to buy.
Yeah. I have to say the work you do on that thing is incredible. Like your keys look so good.
Somebody mentioned that to me today in messages, and I agreed with them. I'm like, I'm impressed that I can even get that, but it's a lot of fiddling, probably more than a real, CNC, because it's a kind of a router-based machine.
And no tool changer.
Yeah, no tool changer. That's my hands.
So the thing I love about your keys is the texture that you have on the grippy part, the handle part.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go out of your way to hide the brass. Like you make it a feature by just adding some texture to it. And I really love that. Like you don't get too blingy by adding in carbon fiber or resin or, doing the heat anodized titanium. You just add some like simple, but really eye-catching texture to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say I've definitely thought about doing, and I've sort of tried doing inlays, mainly micarta, but I haven't been happy with the look I can get, at least with the shape I have inherent in having a Shapeoko and its limitations. I try to get the finishes as good as I can, but if I can't erase the tool marks, I try and make them a feature. So, the back of the bottle opener is just a flat kind of spiral, deck it off. With the rollers and stuff the Shapeoko has, you tend to get inconsistent tram as the thing moves. It dips and makes marks. So I've made it a fun spiral and sort of highlighted the tool marks. I don't know. I think the machining's cool. Hopefully other people who are into cars and other technical stuff think it's cool too.
I love it. I really like the style of your keys.
Definitely. I'm working on ones that aren't just a simple rectangle, although I do like minimalist looking things. My car is sort of my portfolio, parts that I've made end up on there. And I'm not a stickers or like anything extra just doesn't belong on the car. I like having clean colors, just nothing busy. So I've tried to do that with the keys too. So far, I've been happy with it. It's like the patterns I've been able to pull off and the finishes I've gotten, I'm pretty happy with.
Are the keys your major seller right now? Your major product?
They definitely, I would say, profit-wise, yes, because they're just a more in-depth product that I end up selling for more money. I've slowed down on them a little bit while I revamp how I QC them and just trying to get a more consistent result. Because the bottle openers, they just have to open a glass bottle. There's not many tolerances to hit there. You can be way off and it'll still work, still look good. The keys have to interact with the ignition. There's a little leeway because obviously kind of stamped and ground keys that you get as a regular blank aren't that accurate. I haven't been happy with how much variation I have in details of the blade.
Would you ever do other cars?
Already working on that, actually. So
Okay.
I just sent out my first key for the second generation Miata. Obviously, I have a lot of friends in that community. But then BMW E30 chassis keys designed. I just have to start making the jaws and the soft jaws and stuff to mill them. I have blanks ordered for a Honda key and a Porsche key.
So you can reverse engineer them?
Yeah, they're as far as I can access. There's no like dimensions and blueprints to follow.
Yeah.
So I end up having to measure and reverse engineer, which not terrible. I kind of do that at my day job. We get customer parts that they can't send us a model. I have to model that for them. So I've gotten good at it.
So tell me about your background in the history of your business. Like, how did you get to this point where you're making Miata keys and bottle openers?
Okay, so quick way back background. I have a degree in mechanical engineering. I went to Roger Williams in Rhode Island. I'm originally from Connecticut. I moved to New Orleans 6 years ago. I was following my wife, who got a job there at an oyster hatchery, and I was making not much money at a non-engineering job. And that was right around the time where 3D printers got stupid cheap. So I ended
Uh-huh.
up buying a Monoprice Maker Select Mini, the tiniest print bed ever. And then I started making, knickknacks like everyone does. Eventually that led to, what can I make for my car? Because that would be fun. The first big thing I would say I started making for that would be the AC vents. The ones in the Miata are, they call it an eyeball style vent, just a ball that swivels in a socket. I had seen people take RC car wheels and pop them in there,
Huh.
but they had a few
That's funny.
drawbacks. You kind of have to rig it to make it work.
Yeah.
I designed up ones that fit perfectly and function just like OEM. A few friends wanted them. That's when I started the actual brand, Built by Hutch. It was all 3D printed parts to begin with, mainly for the Miata, just because that's my community. But I did things for other people's cars, sort of commissioned work, kept going with 3D printing, got another Monoprice bigger printer. As I got into that sort of world, I started to see CNC stuff on Instagram and YouTube. I started off watching Saunders do all of his stuff,
Yep.
and just it's like, wow, that's where I want to be after this. I looked at what my options were. I was still making very little money in New Orleans. I ended up finding, they call it the mostly printed CNC,
Okay. I'm
and
familiar.
yeah, you're familiar. So, like, I guess for anybody who hasn't heard, it's aluminum conduit, 3D printed parts, and whatever router you want to stick in it. Good for learning, but it's really just a 3D printer with a router attached to it. It's the
Yeah.
same like Marlin firmware and everything. The rigidity on it is just awful.
Yeah.
I remember holding on to the router to sort of like dampen it moving while it was like cutting through wood. Just can't believe I dealt with all that stuff. But so kind of kept going with that, doing
Yeah.
wood, trying plastic. My wife ended up getting a job offer where we live now in Tampa. So we moved. I finally got a nice engineering job working for a company that makes feeder machines.
Like a feeder bowl?
Yeah, feeder bowls, vibratory systems.
Okay.
And with that meant I could afford finally to get, the next level. So that's when I bought my Shapeoko, built a stand, all that stuff, and just started going with that. I didn't have any products on that for quite a while. Like it was more of a experiment with it, have fun machine, and then the printers were making me the money to sustain the hobby. I kept selling more of the vents and all the other accessories I had going. I think the first stuff I started making was out of Delrin, a couple of miscellaneous parts. Door bushings is a big thing for
Okay.
Miatas. People replace the rubber ones with Delrin. People theorize that the door is kind of a structural member when they're closed. I don't know how much I believe it, even owning one, but that was sort of an easy way to get into parts that had to fit somewhere, had specs to meet, and something I could sell off of the CNC. That thing could start paying for itself. About a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit more than that, I started seeing a couple companies one being Forma Works, making keys for Porsches, like the air-cooled Porsches, a few other similar era slash high dollar cars. I think the Toyota, like old FJs and Land Cruisers were in that. I was like, I want to do that. Like, I want a cool key that I make myself for my car, old car, so I don't have a chip to deal with. You can just make a dumb key. Yeah, that's how I got into doing that, and it's just sort of snowballed from there.
What are your goals? Do you want to keep it as a side gig? Would you want it to be something full time?
No, I definitely would like to have it be a full time thing. I like the job I'm at now, but I definitely want to be milling and kind of working for myself as soon as possible. You know, like I'm sure everybody who does that stuff would love to, you know, turn their hobby into the career and have it pay for itself and just work from home, all that stuff. Definitely, that's definitely the goal. I feel like I'm finally hitting a groove with like a product and a market that could push me in that direction. 3D printing, you know, there's definitely businesses out there that are all 3D printing and they work, but I think it's hard to make the money off of 3D printing to sustain yourself, you know, working from home without a regular day job. Definitely, I'm trying to expand upon the idea of automotive everyday carry. You know, people in the car community are pretty technical and know how to work on their own stuff and care about what their car looks like. Kind of the same core concepts that I feel like the EDC community has, caring about what you carry, being prepared, like really interested in style, the mechanics of how things work. I think there could be a big crossover there. Just kind of got to keep brainstorming additional ideas besides keys that fall into that category. And I already have a bunch started, but right now it's the keys and the bottle openers are the things that I have available. I've experimented with leather lanyards and a few different, I guess I would call them home-based, like EDC items. Somewhere to hang your keys or just sort of, you know, home decor and things that deal with the sort of automotive style and things that I enjoy.
Yeah, kind of like I consider my trays an EDC item, even
Yeah,
though like I
exactly.
don't carry trays.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would it take? Like, what are you going to have to do before you can go full time?
I definitely have a few things holding me back. One, the place we're renting, it's a house, which is awesome. And I have a garage, which I didn't have in New Orleans. I had a carport there, but you know, you can't keep expensive things out in an exposed
Yeah.
carport. But it's a one car garage, and I am a car enthusiast. So I need to be able to work on the car when it breaks because it's 30 years old now. But I also need that garage to be my business space. So I need more space basically to work in there and still have room to work on the car. The other big thing is it's just probably saving up enough financially for a machine that's whatever the next level above the Shapeoko is. You know, I've thought about Tormach. I've thought about the Sill machines that you guys talked about on your first podcast. Things that level. That kind of goes hand in hand with the whole garage space. You know, if you got a
Yep.
one car garage that's sort of up a slant driveway and you're renting the place, a little hard to, you know, put a 3,000 pound machine in there or have the
Yep.
landlords be okay with that.
Tormach 440 though is pretty small and can do a surprising amount.
It is. I kind of bounce between all the different options. I've definitely thought about the 440 because it's cheap and you know, I could set it up myself. It's not that bad to move. It's just it's not much milling area. Part of me is like, if I'm gonna buy a machine that's that next level, maybe I should just sort of go a bit further with it, you know, so that I don't have
That's
to
fair.
upgrade quickly. You know, buy one
Yep.
and done. I try and do that with the car too. You know, don't cheap out and buy crap parts and then have to replace them with nicer stuff later. Not to say that the
Yep.
440 is crap, but it's good comparison there.
I bootstrapped up through a bunch of different machines. I went from the Pocket NC to the old Series 3 1100
Yeah.
and then to the new 1100 MX. And each of those steps were just such a huge upgrade.
What made you like start with the with a 5 axis machine rather than doing like a Nomad? or something?
So I didn't. Like I said, I bootstrapped up through a bunch of different machines. My first machine was a little CNC router from Millwright CNC. I
Hmm.
think it was like a $300 kit. You just add your own router. And then I got a Sherline lathe and a Sherline mill. The lathe came first and paid for the mill. The mill was old and like had issues. I never really got it running well. And I was so frustrated with that mill. It was like, all right, I'm going to, find a better machine and buy a machine that's at least in good shape.
Hmm.
And I was eyeballing the Pocket NCs because they're cool. And I found someone who was selling it used, and they let me pay them through PayPal using PayPal interest-free financing.
Uh,
And so I was able to pay it off. Like as long as I paid it off in 6 months, I got it with no interest.
mhm.
And that's when the branding iron started.
I definitely like. I watched heavily a lot of your stuff when you did the Pocket NC because that's like still a fascinating machine to me. I would love to mess around with that. Because I feel like going to a full 5-axis would be super intimidating. Starting with a small little machine that can't hurt itself too much would
Mhm.
be awesome. But that thing really did well with what you had. Like doing the branding irons, I remember you cranked those out pretty fast.
That machine paid for itself and the new. It paid for itself and the Series 3 Tormach in a year.
Wow, that's
So and
impressive.
and then some.
And that was
Yeah.
mostly branding irons on that.
I definitely did other projects on
Hmm.
it. I don't think anything else made me a significant amount of money coming off of it except for brand.
That's pretty impressive. Like I know those machines aren't that cheap for a small format machine. Like that's
I paid I believe 4,000 or 4,500.
the 3D. When I did the 3D printing, that was quick to pay itself off. Definitely like
Mhm.
moving to the CNC. It's like it was interesting to have such a huge purchase and you know and how long that takes to pay off. It definitely it was kind of nice to do that jump. So now I can envision what it takes when you have a full size machine and what I would need to pay that kind of thing off.
One of the things that I learned on the Pocket NC, so I bought it with financing,
Hmm.
and I sold my Sherline mill, which paid for some of it right off the bat. I think it worked out that I had to make like 600. No, it was less than 600. It was like $500 a month in order to pay it off. Um, and having that, like, okay, I need to actually make $500 a month with this machine. That really was like the moment that Design the Everything matured, and like I started to have more focus.
Hmm.
And honestly, that's kind of one of the reasons I bought the MX, is because it was like, okay, now I have to, make these monthly payments every month. And honestly, it's not a whole lot more than the Pocket NC. I think my monthly payments are like $600.
Oh wow,
Um,
that's not bad for
it's
that.
like, well, yeah, it's really not. It's like, well, if I can do that with Pocket NC, I can do it with the Tormach, and I'm just gonna have to find a way to make it every month.
Yeah, that is a
Um,
nice thing like to think about. Like I've definitely encountered that. Like you put a real deadline on yourself. Not just something you kind of make up. I can say, oh, I want to make this many keys by 2 weeks from now, but there's no real pressure because everything's paid off. Yeah, having a real deadline, I think, can like really helps drive your business forward.
and once I have everything up and running again, because I still don't have my new mill put back together from it
Hmm.
after the move, I'm going to artificially start putting like some more payments on myself. I'm calling it rent. So once everything's back up and running, I'm going to put $200 a month of rent that Design the Everything is going to pay me for using the shop, and I'll use that to pay down like car debt and try to get to the point where I'm 100% debt free before I'm ready to take Design the Everything to be a full company. But it'll force me like, okay, now I don't have to make $600 every month. I have to make $800 every.
Yeah, that's a nice way of thinking about it. Like make yourself pay rent or give yourself an artificial payment that like has to be met every month. I like that idea. Might be something for me to try because like the big thing now is me saving for whatever the next machine is. But
Mm-hmm.
since it's not like decided. I don't have a machine decided on really, or a time for that to happen. It'd be nice to just set sooner goals, like a monthly payment. I got another question for you, actually. Since I'm doing my shipping today, you had mentioned that you're using a different type of shipping software than me. I do ShipStation, which I've loved.
Okay.
Um, there's definitely a lot of features I don't get to use in that yet. It's a fairly
Yeah.
powerful product, but I wanted to hear about how it's going with the one you're using.
Yeah. So I'm using Pirate Ship,
Hmm.
which I had like tinkered with in the past. I think I maybe sent one package through it as a test. But today I just printed 47 shipping labels with it,
Hmm.
and it's easy. It's also free.
Oh, that's nice.
There's there's no subscription fee like with ShipStation or Stamps.com.
Hmm.
And I mean, I haven't used it regularly, and maybe there's some, some sort of bottleneck there that would get annoying over time. But just I uploaded a CSV. It asks you like, this is what I think the columns are. Like, is this the actual column in the CSV? Is this their name? Is this their address?
Hmm.
And I was like, nope, that's that. And then it was like generate labels, buy labels, print labels,
Nice.
and it just generated one big PDF that I hit print on, and it spat them all out of my thermal printer.
Hmm. Yeah, I have the same Rolo printer as you. I saw that today.
Yep.
That thing, I don't know. That was one of the biggest upgrades I feel like I've done business wise.
Yes.
That thing is amazing.
Oh, it's one of those things that you wouldn't think about, but man, going like printing labels on a regular printer, either with sticky paper or without sticker paper, and then going to a
Hmm.
thermal printer, it's just a night and day difference.
Yeah, my old setup, to even to think about it now is crazy because I was selling things through Squarespace. That's what I used for my website, and
Hmm.
then I would go to PayPal to see the transaction, and I would make a label in PayPal. I don't know if you've done
Okay.
that process. It's just like
Yep.
so many clicks, like things to enter in every freaking time. And then I was printing on a regular ink printer, like half sheet labels. And oh my
Yep.
God, when I, yeah, first getting that Rolo printer and just like having a ribbon of them come out as them.
Okay, so one of the questions that I've started asking all of my guests, what is Design the Everything doing wrong right now, and how do we get better?
That was an interesting one. I saw you listed there. Definitely the one thing I thought of that I don't know if it's something you're doing wrong, but it was just interesting to me. I kind of support it. Is that you've moved from a few different products. It's sort of like project to project, and there hasn't been like a continuous all the way through product. I mean, I've switched things up too, but um, I wouldn't say that's quite a weakness. It's just something that I noticed. It is
Yeah.
nice to kind of do one project and then you know do something new and something fresh. But I would say maybe try and find like one continuous product or something. Or there was something there that was just what I immediately thought of.
I absolutely don't disagree. And it's actually funny you say that.
Hmm.
Almost everyone who I've asked that question to has said something very similar. Like, I just need to be more consistent with the products I'm offering, and that like people can actually buy them when they want them, which
Hmm.
has kind of always been a problem for me. So I think you're right.
Both of those like things though, I kind of support the way you've done it because, or at least understand because my stuff's like never in stock because it's when I can make it and then I put
Yep.
it up on the website. And that was a big difference between doing my printed stuff to doing milled stuff. I decided I didn't want to do made to order. It was just
Yep.
kind of stressful and didn't work with my schedule at all. So doing a drop, everything is determined on my time, works a lot better. So I totally understand that part. And then I also get the like coming up with new ideas and doing something new
Hmm.
because that's how I felt about the printed stuff. I kind of got sick of it. I kind of started to hate it at the end, to be honest, and just needed something new. I feel like that's how you get better at things, and that's how you learn stuff. Like obviously you've gone into Cerakote now with the trays. That's a whole new skill and setup. I don't know. So there's definitely pluses to doing how you do it. It is sort of the big thing.
So if somebody wants to support you, how could they do so?
Well, I do everything right now through Instagram. So yeah,
Yeah.
if anybody wants to support me, that's where I put my stuff. Everything I make right now is Miata themed. So if any of the viewers have a Miata, check me out. And hopefully soon I'll be more into products that aren't into a specific car can enjoy too. Something that's a little bit more EDC and a little less Mazda Miata.
I will have links to his Instagram and shop in the description below. If you want to support him, please go check those out.